The wrestling world exploded when Roman Reigns turned his back on everything fans thought they knew about loyalty and brotherhood in WWE. What happened that night sent shockwaves through arenas across the globe and left millions of viewers staring at their screens in absolute disbelief. This wasn't just another storyline twist or a predictable swerve that fans could see coming from miles away. This was the kind of moment that splits wrestling history into before and after. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do it now because you're about to dive deep into one of the most controversial and talked about moments in modern wrestling history. The setup for this seismic shift had been building for months, but nobody wanted to believe it would actually happen. Roman Reigns had been the face of WWE for years, carrying the company on his shoulders through thick and thin. He battled personal demons, overcame real-life health challenges, and stood as the symbol of everything WWE represented. Fans had watched him grow from a member of the Shield into a singles competitor who main event multiple WrestleManias. The relationship between Reigns and the WWE Universe had always been complicated, filled with boos and cheers that created a unique dynamic unlike anything else in professional wrestling. The night everything changed started like any other episode of SmackDown. Fans packed into the arena expecting another chapter in ongoing feuds and storylines. Roman Reigns was scheduled to address the crowd about his upcoming championship match, and nobody suspected what was about to unfold. The atmosphere felt electric as his music hit, and he made his entrance to a mixed reaction that had become his trademark. He walked to the ring with that confident swagger, microphone in hand, ready to deliver what everyone assumed would be a standard promo hyping his next big match. But then something shifted in his demeanor. The words coming out of his mouth weren't the usual rally cry or the expected challenge to his opponent. Instead, Roman began talking about respect and how he had given everything to the company and the fans for years. His tone grew darker with each sentence, his frustration becoming more apparent with every word. He talked about carrying WWE on his back while others got the credit, about being the workhorse while part-timers swooped in for the big moments. The crowd started to sense something was off, the energy in the building changing from excitement to confusion. What happened next will be replayed in highlight reels for decades to come. Roman's longtime ally and family member walked down to the ring, clearly concerned about the direction of the promo. They tried to calm the situation, to bring Roman back from whatever edge he was approaching. For a moment it seemed like everything might go back to normal, like this was just a passionate outburst from a frustrated competitor. The two men stood face to face in the center of the ring, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then in one explosive moment Roman struck, laying out his own blood with a devastating move that left the entire arena in stunned silence. The reaction was instantaneous and visceral. Fans who had been sitting jumped to their feet, some in shock and others in anger. The commentators struggled to find words to describe what they had just witnessed. Social media immediately caught fire with reactions ranging from complete disbelief to accusations that WWE had gone too far. This wasn't a villain turn where the crowd could boo and jeer playfully. This felt personal, it felt real, and it crossed lines that many fans didn't think would be crossed. Roman stood over the fallen body of his family member, his expression cold and emotionless, as if he had just done what needed to be done all along. The following week saw Roman Reigns transform before everyone's eyes. Gone was any pretense of being the hero or the people's champion. He embraced a darker persona, one that felt more authentic and dangerous than anything he had portrayed before. His promos became cutting and brutal, tearing down not just his opponents but the entire WWE system. He talked about how playing by the rules and being the good guy had held him back, how the only way to truly succeed in this business was to take what you wanted by force. The character work was so convincing that fans started to wonder where Roman Reigns ended and where this new persona began. WWE capitalized on the moment brilliantly, booking Roman in increasingly hostile situations that amplified his villain status. He attacked legends and fan favorites without remorse. He manipulated matches and outcomes to serve his own interests. He formed alliances only to betray them when they no longer suited his purposes. Every action was calculated to generate maximum heat from the audience, and it worked beyond anyone's wildest expectations. The boos that had once been mixed now came in deafening waves, creating an atmosphere of genuine animosity that hadn't been seen in years. Behind the scenes reports suggested that this heel turn had been discussed for months before it actually happened. WWE Creative knew they needed to do something drastic to freshen up Roman's character and give him new life as a performer. The company had tried for years to make him the top babyface, but the crowd never fully accepted him in that role. By turning him into the villain, WWE finally gave fans permission to boo Roman without feeling guilty about it, and it liberated both the character and the performer in ways nobody anticipated. The decision was risky because Roman had been positioned as the face of the company for so long, but the risk paid off in spectacular fashion. The impact on television ratings and social media engagement was immediate and significant. SmackDown viewership spiked in the weeks following the heel turn as fans tuned in to see what Roman would do next. Twitter and Instagram exploded with discussions about the storyline, with wrestling content creators producing hundreds of videos analyzing every aspect of the turn. Mainstream sports media picked up the story, giving WWE publicity in outlets that normally ignored professional wrestling. The heel turn became a cultural moment that transcended the wrestling bubble and captured attention from casual fans and non-fans alike. Other wrestlers on the roster had to adjust their own characters and storylines to accommodate this new version of Roman Reigns. Babyfaces who had been struggling to connect with audiences suddenly had the perfect villain to rally against. Long-term storylines were rewritten to incorporate Roman's turn, creating fresh matchups and feuds that felt organic rather than forced. The entire SmackDown roster benefited from having a central antagonist who could carry storylines and elevate everyone around him. Tag teams broke up to pursue Roman, former champions came out of retirement for one more shot, and young up-and-comers saw facing Roman as their ticket to stardom. The family dynamic became one of the most compelling aspects of the storyline. Roman's real-life connections to other WWE wrestlers through the legendary Anoa'i wrestling dynasty added layers of authenticity to the drama. When he turned on family members, it felt like more than just wrestling fiction. It tapped into universal themes of betrayal, ambition, and the corrupting influence of power. Fans debated whether Roman's actions could ever be forgiven, whether family bonds could survive such a fundamental betrayal. These discussions happened not just in wrestling forums but around dinner tables and in casual conversations between fans. Championship matches took on new meaning with Roman as the villain chasing or defending gold. His matches became must-see events because nobody knew how far he would go to win or retain a title. He used every underhanded tactic in the book, from outside interference to weapons to psychological manipulation of opponents. When he won, it felt like a genuine threat to the babyface roster, and when he lost, the eruption of support for his opponent was deafening. WWE finally had a villain that fans loved to hate in the way that the greatest heels of previous generations had been despised by audiences. The promos Roman delivered during this period showcased his growth as a performer. He dropped the scripted corporate speak that had plagued his babyface run and spoke with a natural intensity that felt genuine. His delivery became more varied, ranging from quiet menace to explosive anger depending on the situation. He called out the hypocrisy of fans who claimed to want something different but then rejected him when he gave them exactly what they asked for. These promos generated headlines and became talking points that kept the wrestling community engaged between major events. Pay-per-view matches featuring heel Roman Reigns consistently over-delivered on expectations. Without the pressure of trying to make fans cheer for him, Roman could work a different style that emphasized his character's ruthlessness. His matches told stories of domination and desperation, of opponents throwing everything at him only to fall short. The false finishes in these matches had fans on the edge of their seats because they genuinely didn't know if this would be the night Roman finally got his comeuppance. The uncertainty made every big match feel important and unpredictable. Merchandise sales surprisingly didn't take the hit that some executives feared when Roman turned heel. In fact, certain items featuring his new persona sold better than his previous babyface merchandise. Fans wanted to own a piece of this controversial moment in wrestling history. The villain version of Roman became iconic in a way that years of trying to make him the hero never achieved. This demonstrated something important about modern wrestling fans and their relationship with characters. They don't necessarily want traditional good guys and bad guys anymore. They want authentic characters they can invest in regardless of alignment. The locker room reportedly embraced Roman's heel turn because it created opportunities for everyone. Veterans appreciated working with someone who could carry his end of a storyline and make his opponents look credible even in defeat. Younger wrestlers valued the chance to work high-profile programs with the company's top star. The collaborative nature of creating these storylines brought out the best in the entire roster. Matches and segments involving Roman became some of the most critically acclaimed content WWE produced during this period. Fan reactions at live events created an atmosphere unlike anything seen in years. When Roman's music hit, the boos were so loud they shook the building. Signs attacking his character filled every arena. Yet underneath the hatred there was an unmistakable energy, a passion that proved fans were completely invested in the story. This was the opposite of the apathetic silence that kills wrestling characters. Roman had become the kind of performer that fans paid money to see whether they loved him or hated him, and in wrestling that's the ultimate measure of success. The psychological depth WWE added to Roman's character elevated the storyline beyond simple good versus evil. They explored themes of resentment that had built over years of criticism. They showed how constant negativity from fans can warp someone's perspective and push them toward darkness. Roman's promos referenced real criticisms that had been leveled at him during his babyface run, turning those complaints into fuel for his villainous fire. This meta approach to storytelling blurred the lines between fiction and reality in ways that made everything feel more legitimate. International audiences responded to heel Roman with the same intensity as American crowds. The character transcended language and cultural barriers because the emotions driving his actions were universal. Wrestling fans in Europe, Asia, and South America all understood betrayal and ambition. They all recognized the archetype of someone who gets tired of playing by the rules and decides to take what they believe they deserve. This global appeal helped WWE expand its reach in markets where they were trying to grow their presence. The merchandise machine kicked into overdrive with new designs and slogans built around Roman's heel persona. T-shirts with threatening catchphrases flew off the shelves at live events and online stores. Action figures depicting his new look became hot items for collectors. WWE created entire product lines around this version of the character, understanding that moments like this don't come along often and need to be maximized while fan interest is at its peak. The financial success of heel Roman merchandise validated the creative decision to make the turn in the first place. Wrestling podcasts and YouTube channels dedicated countless hours to analyzing every aspect of the heel turn and its aftermath. Fans dissected promos looking for hidden meanings and clues about future storylines. They debated whether this was the greatest character transformation in WWE history or if other turns had been more impactful. These discussions kept the wrestling community engaged between weekly television shows and monthly pay-per-views. The conversation never stopped, which meant WWE stayed relevant in an entertainment landscape crowded with competition for attention. The ripple effects of Roman's turn extended beyond just his own character arc. It emboldened WWE creative to take bigger risks with other established stars. If turning the face of the company could work this well, what other sacred cows could be challenged? This led to a period of creative experimentation that produced some of the most interesting wrestling television in years. Not every experiment succeeded, but the willingness to try new things revitalized a product that had been accused of being stale and predictable. Longtime wrestling observers compared Roman's heel turn to legendary character shifts from previous eras. They drew parallels to when beloved heroes became hated villains and completely changed the trajectory of their careers and the companies they worked for. The debate about where Roman's turn ranked among the greatest of all time became a popular topic in wrestling discourse. Some argued it was the most important character change since the Attitude Era, while others felt more time was needed to properly assess its historical significance. The physicality of Roman's matches changed noticeably after the heel turn. He worked a more aggressive style, targeting body parts with vicious precision and showing no mercy to fallen opponents. His power moves looked more devastating because they came from a place of genuine malice rather than heroic determination. Opponents sold his offense like they were being attacked by someone who wanted to end their careers, not just win a match. This attention to detail in the physical storytelling made the matches feel more consequential and dangerous. Behind the character was a performer who had finally found his comfort zone. Roman Reigns the person had always been more naturally suited to playing a villain based on his personality and demeanor. Wrestling fans could sense this authenticity, which made them more willing to invest in the character despite their initial resistance to seeing him turn. When a performer is genuinely comfortable in their role, it elevates every aspect of their work from promos to in-ring performance to backstage segments. Roman's confidence radiated through the screen in ways it never had during his babyface run. The storytelling possibilities opened up by Roman's heel turn seemed endless. WWE could tell stories about redemption, revenge, family conflict, and the corrupting nature of power. They could bring in fresh opponents from the roster or sign new talent specifically to feud with heel Roman. The character had legs to run for years if booked correctly, giving WWE a reliable main event attraction they could build around. This stability at the top of the card allowed them to take chances with other parts of the show knowing they had Roman as an anchor. Social media feuds between Roman and his real-life colleagues added another layer to the storyline. While fans knew that professional wrestlers often worked storylines on Twitter and Instagram, the intensity and personal nature of some exchanges made people question what was real and what was scripted. This ambiguity kept fans engaged and constantly speculating about what might happen next. The lines between the character and the person became so blurred that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. The heel turn reinvigorated Roman's passion for the business in interviews conducted outside of character. He spoke about how liberating it was to finally stop fighting against the audience's natural inclination and instead embrace their hatred. He talked about the creative freedom that came with playing a villain, how he could try different things without worrying about maintaining a heroic image. These behind-the-scenes insights gave fans a deeper appreciation for the work that went into creating and sustaining such a dramatic character transformation. WWE's stock price and overall business metrics showed positive trends following the heel turn, though attributing this entirely to one storyline would be oversimplifying complex business factors. However, there's no denying that having a hot angle at the top of the card helps drive interest across all business verticals from television to live events to merchandise to streaming subscriptions. Roman's heel turn became one of several factors contributing to WWE's strong business performance during this period, proving that good creative can have measurable financial impacts. The moment will be studied by future generations of wrestlers and promoters as an example of how to successfully execute a major character change. It requires the right timing, the right circumstances, and the right performer willing to commit fully to the transformation. Roman Reigns checked all those boxes and the result was something that exceeded everyone's expectations. His heel turn didn't just change his own career trajectory, it changed the entire landscape of WWE and gave the company a blueprint for how to refresh established stars who had grown stale in their current roles. Years from now, when fans look back at this era of WWE, Roman's heel turn will stand out as one of the defining moments. It will be the before and after marker that separates different periods in company history. Children who watch wrestling in future decades will see clips of this turn in documentary packages and ask their parents what it was like to witness it in real time. That's the kind of lasting impact that only the biggest moments in wrestling history achieve, and Roman Reigns delivered one for the ages. If you've made it this far, you're clearly passionate about wrestling and invested in these stories that we all love. Do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another breakdown of the biggest moments in WWE history. Wrestling is at its best when we can share these experiences together and debate what they mean for the future of the business we all care about so deeply.